Hello and welcome to Marketing Global Edition with just me today, Jasmine Montgomery, coming to you from London. Piers is unfortunately off sick with man flu. So it is just me and I honestly don't know where to begin today. I'm starting with the idea that a 4-year-old is apparently now supposed to go on a hydration journey, with pink glittery packaging being sold as empowerment, and the fact that a grown adult celebrity has just launched a skincare brand for children, for toddlers, for 4-year-olds, and is calling it self-care. I am just losing the plot over here about this. Let me say this very clearly. Children do not need a skincare brand. They need a childhood. And what I'm talking about today is a brand, I almost hesitate to give them any publicity whatsoever. It's a brand called Rinny. It's a new brand by Shay Mitchell, who is the star of Pretty Little Liars. And, you know, often when we do our podcast, like we put, you know, if we're talking about a brand, we put their logo on our, you know, front cover image. I don't know if you spotted it. We have a little roundel and, you know, we change the logo and we swap it out so that you can see who we're talking about. And I am not going to put Rinny's logo on that today, because they do not deserve to be amplified in any way. They are marketing to kids as young as 4 years old. These kids can't read, they can't tie their shoes, but apparently they can do a multi-step skincare routine. I'm sorry, when did we decide that normal, healthy, baby soft skin needed to be optimized? When did we decide that childhood needed a serum? And when did we decide that it was okay to market to 4-year-olds? We should not be marketing to 4-year-olds at all. If anything, we should be marketing to parents. Nothing needs to get sold to 4-year-olds. So let's break this down. Okay, what is Rinny really? Right, Rinny is being positioned as self-care for kids. My head explodes at this point. It's colourful, it's fun, it's got soft, pastel, Instagram-friendly look that just begs to be placed on a tiled bathroom shelf next to a Stanley cup and a ring light. And the messaging is all about building habits, self-expression, independence. Have you ever met a 4-year-old that wasn't already independent in their own minds? Healthy routines, teaching children to care for themselves. You know, how can we argue with that? Except that children already care for themselves. You know, that's what they do when they wash their face and brush their teeth and have a bath. And, you know, this is marketed as self-care, borderline sort of hygiene, but really, this is actually about beauty culture creeping into childhood dressed up as wellness. And, you know, the average 4-year-old, most 4-year-olds do not suffer from dry winter complexions or uneven texture. They suffer from, you know, sticky hands and a bit of mud and possibly a sore knee. But you know what they don't need is a branded morning ritual filmed on TikTok. This is where Rimini isn't just a product line, it's a cultural message. It's telling young children that your body, that your face is something that needs to be managed. It needs to be polished. It needs to be improved. That you are not good enough as you are. And that is a dangerous message at that age. And it is part of a much bigger problem. Because Rinny, this idiotic brand from this idiotic person, does not exist in isolation. It sits in the midst of something much bigger that is already happening and that is just so shocking. And it's become known in the media as the Sephora kids phenomenon. You know, the reason this is a marketing story, right, is because what we do in branding and marketing is we create demand for things. But I think we've got to ask ourselves the question, you know, should we be creating demand for this type of product with this type of audience? And there are sometimes we should say to ourselves, no, you know what? We shouldn't. We should go home, have a bath, do our own skincare routine because we're 53, and, you know, have a cup of tea and stop creating demand. Sometimes as a marketeer, you just have to stop yourself from creating demand because it has got to the point of ridiculousness. So we now have 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are running into beauty shops and buying brands like Drunk Elephant and, you know, they're testing things like retinols on their skin, right? So they're blending serums in stores like little mad scientists. It's called the Sephora kids phenomenon. And it has kids, young children, using products that are designed for adult skin. Things like, like acids, like, vitamin C, peptides, retinols, things that can burn young skin. These are ending up on faces that haven't even produced oil recently and are certainly not losing their collagen like I am. This is not remotely appropriate. And what we're seeing now is the industry response, instead of saying, hang on a second, something's gone too far, let us self-regulate, let's step back. They're going, aha, a new market, Gen Alpha. And that is really the problem. It really is not, in my humble opinion, just a well-meaning mum project, right? It is a commercialization of childhood. It is a response to capitalism spotting a gap in Gen Alpha. It is boardrooms around the world saying, kids love skincare, great, let's get them in early. Let's get them in early and they'll stay with us. We'll have brand loyalty. Now, that isn't actually always working out for brands, but, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think that Shay Mitchell is some evil villain rubbing her hands together, but she's probably thinking, I'm a mum, I'm giving my kids something cute and fun to play with. And, when a few of my friends first looked at it who have young girls, they were like, oh, my young girl would love that. She'd face mask for 4-year-olds. Fun, it's soft, it's squidgy, it's playful. And I can certainly understand or imagine a whole bunch of young girls thinking this is a fun thing to do at sleepovers. We can put face masks on our face and look like mum or look like teenagers in the movies. But intention doesn't cancel impact. Whatever her intention, the impact is that we are making beauty a requirement of childhood. And let's just talk about the psychology for a second. I'm a marketeer, not a psychologist, but there is a strong psychological component in what we do. We frequently set out to create demand in the minds of people where there was no demand before. And you see this in the beauty industry so much. I remember the first time that I saw, and I don't know, it was the Body Shop or somewhere, neck moisturizer. And I was suddenly made aware of the fact that my neck was not being properly moisturized and that I needed to buy a whole new set of products just for the neck area. And I thought to myself, this is I didn't know I needed this. And that is exactly what we're making people think, is I didn't know I needed this. I didn't know it was bad until you told me it was. So thinking about the psychology, at 4 to 10 years old, children are forming their identity, their sense of self-worth, their view of the world, and their understanding of normal, and their understanding of whether they themselves are okay. And they are incredibly suggestible. If you tell a child every day that, you need this for your skin to be good, eventually they will hear, without this, my skin isn't good. I'm not enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not clean enough. I'm not, attractive enough. I mean, why does a 4-year-old need to look attractive? It just blows my mind. And it gets me very cross when I see some of these fashion brands, doing sort of G-string bikini bottoms for toddlers. Children do not need to be attractive. And anybody who thinks they do needs to see whether they've recently received an email from Jeffrey Epstein, because that is outrageous. And, we are teaching children that their self-worth is about, feeling good equals buying something. Caring for yourself equals applying something. Confidence comes from consumption. That is not empowerment. That's programming. And we know where this road leads. It leads to low self-esteem in teen years. It leads to body image issues. It leads to dependency on external validation, anxiety around appearance, constant comparison culture, and God forbid, even teens taking their own lives. So what are we doing? We have spent years trying to undo some really harmful beauty standards in teenage girls. I myself, as a sort of 50-something-year-old, am, violently upset by some of the things that were done to my generation. And I really, really do not want to do it to the next generation of young girls. So getting a jump start on, feeling bad about yourself and therefore having to cure that with cosmetics at the age of 4 is madness. I work in branding. I understand that this is a business move. Let's call this what this is. This is not a sweet little passion project. This is a strategic business decision. Gen Alpha is to some people the next consumer powerhouse. I mean, it is at some point in the future. And I think for some people, they feel that if you win them at 5, you don't just win them for childhood, you potentially win them for life. And that might be the next 95 years, God willing, for these lovely young things. And, brand loyalty is being injected younger and younger. The toy industry does it, the fashion industry does it, and now the beauty industry is doing it. So yes, Rini is charmingly packaged. Yes, it looks cute and clean and it says it's gentle, but at the end of the day, it's still a commercial product being inserted into childhood routines for profit. And that is where I draw the line, because there is a difference between making something for children and marketing adulthood and adult concerns and adult demands to children. And in my humble opinion, Rini has crossed that line. Where are the safeguards? What should the age limits be? Where is the psychologist sign-off? Where is the pediatric dermatologist board? Where are the child development advisors publicly fronting this brand? Because who we're hearing from on this? We're hearing from influencers, celebrity mums, brand founders. But we should be hearing from child psychologists, educators, therapists, pediatricians. And that silence is deafening. If this was truly about children, that's who I'd want to see on the website. Specialist pediatric dermatologists telling me why on earth a child needs anything beyond sunscreen, if they're going out in the sun, or perhaps if a child's unfortunate enough to have some particularly dry skin, something dermatological. Instead, what we're seeing is cute packaging, smiling celebrity parent, marketing copy. That's not child well-being. That is cynical misuse of branding and marketing. And that really gets my goat. You are taking the dark arts of branding and advertising and using them for evil, and that really boils my blood. I'm trying to keep my language clean. I'm not against self-care. I'm not against Shay Mitchell. I'm not against teaching kids routines for hygiene. I am against the idea that a child's skin is a problem to solve. A 4-year-old does not need a brand. They need dirt on their hands, sun on their face, imagination, and a mirror that doesn't judge them. Let them be messy. Let them be barefoot. Let them be unfiltered and unmonetized. Because once you teach a child that their face is a project, they never see it the same way again. And to me, that is the real tragedy of Rini. So this isn't meant to be an attack. It's meant to be a plea to brands, to parents, to celebrities, to all of us. Let childhood and children be enough. Thank you.
Marketing Global Edition is sponsored by 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐷𝐶, the ad generator for small businesses that serves you effective and affordable ads in seconds. And by 7 Brands, the international advertising and branding agency that has worked with clients around the world from Coca-Cola to Facebook.